All right, here we go.
Welcome to Drawing Hive.
All right, here we go.
All right. Hey, everybody. I think we're set to go. If you're here to draw and you're looking for Drawing Hive, you're in the right place. And just as a reminder that Drawing Hive is brought to you by Visual Arts Passage. What we do at Visual Arts Passage is we help people create careers. We offer mentorships for fine artists and illustrators to give them the tool bag of things they need to work in the industry. So something I think we do a really good job of it. And if you're interested, I think Timmy's going to maybe talk about it a little bit more. We got a pretty good sale going on right now, and we're enrolling for our fall semester.
All right.
All right. So tonight, got a bunch of fun stuff going on. We have we're doing, I love this photo. This is my favorite.
Oh my gosh, I love this dog so much.
Yeah, and I love that now focus in the background, but that's a great shot. So I thought I would open with that. We're doing Deadpool and Wolverine tonight. Here is the reference, and Scott Anderson, who is our guest tonight. I'm going to say a few more words about Scott in just a minute, but Scott chose most of the reference and even made me change things because he didn't like what I chose. But that's okay. I'll explain to him later why mine was better. No.
I like that makes for a good guest.
No,
A guest that pushes back.
It's the ultimate guest. I love the fact that he knew what he wanted and got it. And actually, one of the photos that he wanted me to change back, that's the one I've been drawing. So
funny.
Touche. So we do 3 poses, 2 20-minute poses, and then a 40-minute pose. You can draw all 4 of them. You can draw one all night long. You can do whatever you want to do. But the goal is to draw. And we got good reference, got great lighting, and should be a fun night drawing. So I'm going to introduce Scott here just in a second.
You're right. I'm going to give him a second.
Hey, there we go.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? I need to tell your vast viewing audience something here. So I'm texting Timmy this morning because we text all the time, and usually I think this is fair to say our mutual goal when we text is we're just trying to crack each other up. We're trying to make each other laugh. And so I text him and I'm giving him a hard time about him not finding the right hashtag for this episode. And I had told him yesterday on a thread yesterday, I'm almost certain I can make it to this one, but not like a full commitment. Like I'm really going to try. I'm trying to clear out the time. So today I innocently ask him about 11 a.m. my time, Pacific Standard Time. And I say, by the way, who's the surprise guest? And he goes, hilarious, you are. And I say, wait, what? And he goes, Deadpool serious. And I'm just like, so just want you all to know the kind of operation that, it's been run around here. The surprise guest didn't know he was the surprise guest until he asked about it.
Doesn't that make it a nice surprise though?
I was shooting.
Yeah, it's a surprise for everybody.
I think that might be a reflection on the guest and not the.
Wasn't my fault.
I'll admit it. I was shooting from the hip. And I figured if you didn't show up, if you didn't show up, this way I could blame someone else. I could say Ted Kinsella blew it off. Sorry, everybody.
Well, hey, a couple of quick things about Scott. Scott, consider a good friend. I've known I don't know how old he was, early 20s. I met in 1996 or 1997.
I think it was 97. Yeah.
And he looks exactly the same. He's one of those creatures that doesn't age. And he's become an extremely good illustrator, good artist all the way around. Here's some of his work. Scott has been recognized by Communication Arts Magazine, Society of Illustrators New York, Los Angeles, 3x3 Magazine, and has been in multiple volumes of Spectrum. I know he is a graduate, carries an MFA from the Hartford Art School. Did his undergrad at Willamette University, and he is also a professor that, and I know he is because he sends us students at Westmont College. And is Westmont in Santa Barbara proper?
Technically, we're in Montecito, which
Okay.
is just the even ritzier part of Santa Barbara. But yeah,
But Scott, here's some really great work, and I had to put this one in here just because I'm imagining you drinking like that, riding a horse, and just knowing you, that's very different than you actually are.
the funny thing is that I enjoy the occasional glass of wine, but I've never been able to develop a taste for beer. So that, if I recall correctly, when I took the reference for that, I think I had a Winehards root beer bottle that I was drinking out of.
Anyway, some really terrific work. Everybody pay attention to the great shape, design, and value control in this stuff.
That one was awesome. Was that for Wired?
That was for Men's Health magazine, and it was an article about how they're using mushrooms now to help treat, in particular, people who've gone through like extreme trauma, because it can help rewire their brain in good ways. But you have to do it in collaboration with serious therapy. And so it was their mental health columnist who was kind of noting a cautionary note saying, hey, there's like promising results with this, but like don't go microdose on your own. There has to be an established plan and, you know, a way to do it. That one's for Mother Jones magazine. That was back, remember when Ron DeSantis was like surging and making a serious play for the Republican nomination? And so
King of the Swamp.
kind of was the cover image there.
Yeah, well, beautiful
Awesome
stuff.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Still, I love that piece on the right. That's
What's
so
your
cool.
medium that you're using?
Almost all of these are digital.
Awesome. Well, obviously it's really good because I can't always tell.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I do try to, impart like a traditional feel to it. This one was for the Hollywood Reporter about when the Joker movie came out in, I think that was 2019, fall 2019, and there were some anti-gun violence groups that were protesting it, and they ran an editorial of, by all people, one of their guest columnists for Hollywood Reporter is actually Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kareem ran an opinion piece of saying why the Joker anti-gun protests are missing the mark, was the title of it, of the idea of like your cause is noble, but maybe taking it out on this film isn't helping the cause. So that was a super fun one. That was one where I had really finally moved my process over to the iPad Pro. And I recall distinctly with this one, I had almost finished, well, I had finished it. I turned it into the art director. And that very morning, my wife and I were leaving on a short 4-day weekend trip because we had a break at the college. We have like a mid-semester break. And my wife and I were heading out to Chicago, which I'd never been to before. So it was like a little getaway for the two of us. We had managed to land cheap tickets on a sale. And I'm literally in the lounge at LAX, like just waiting to board the airplane. And the art director asked for just one minor modification. I think he wanted me to like soften the edges of the target or something like that. And it was this kind of great feeling of that. I pulled out my iPad, made the changes in about 10 minutes, hopped on the LAX free Wi-Fi, sent him the file, walked on the plane. It was just like literally like the very last second, and I'm out. I'm on vacation.
You're literally a commercial. Later. That is like a commercial.
Yeah, kind of. It was pretty fun.
Well, great work, Scott, and we'll talk more about career as the night goes on. But thank you for being here. And Timmy, you can you need to do.
All right, everybody. So get to drawing. We do 2 20-minute poses and then one long one. Sometimes it changes, follow your heart. Everybody on the panel, don't follow them. They do whatever they want because they've been doing this for 4 years every Thursday. Mm-hmm. So we're not gonna be bossy with what John and Cassandra and Scott do. But please post your work throughout the night to Instagram. We're using the hashtag Drawing Hive and the hashtag Wilson Hive, like Wade Wilson, like Deadpool, Wade Wilson Hive. Hive pool was taken. I don't know what to tell you. But please post your work. We're gonna check it out at the end of the night. It's my favorite part of the show, and definitely post it. All right, let's get to drawing. Scott, you did freeze up, so you might do a disconnect and reconnect.
Oh man,
He's
I
just
was all
Don't sweat it. And if it continues, I'll give you a ring.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Cassandra, what are you working in tonight?
Shocking. Cardboard.
Yeah,
cardboard.
cardboard. I'm in the midst of editing your brush review.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting how you talked about brush sizes, comparing them to like women's jeans.
They are. I have a
Can
whole
you
rant about it.
elaborate? Can you elaborate from like ground zero with that?
Yeah. I don't have them all with me right now. But like with like especially rounds are like women's jeans. And what I mean by that is like flats are like men's jeans. A 10 is a 10 across brands. Rounds, on the other hand, they are their own thing. Like in one brand, it's a 3, another, it's a 4 or a 5. I have a 10, and they're all the same size. Like I had capers, and I was like, or caliper, and I was measuring the millimeter for 3.5 millimeter, and the sizes like varied dramatically across brands. And so I was like, I had been joking, texting Timmy, just being like, isn't this ridiculous? Like, I'm just trying to get the same size brush with 7 different brands so that I can really compare them properly, like their rounds. And yeah, like I think only 2 brands were like both matched as a 4. The rest were all different sizes. And so you'd think, okay, 3.5 millimeters would either be a size 3 or 4. Yeah, no, it's like a 3, a 4, a 5, a 10. Like it just, yeah. So,
Cassandra, I can totally relate to what you're talking about because I was trying to buy some brushes online and I realized when they showed up, I was like, this is not, it's not the 3 size that I was expecting. It's that
yeah.
brand's one, which happened to be way smaller. So I had these teeny tiny brushes that I wasn't expecting.
And it's so weird. You could get a 3 in another size and it's ginormous. Like
Right.
it
Right.
just doesn't, it's not logical. It's just not logical. I don't understand why 3.5 millimeter cannot match up to size. Like, and then to then go over to flats and then flats go logical and like 10 millimeters is size 10. Except for Rosemary and Co., they're off in their own world, and like a 10 millimeter is a 5. So I don't know. Yeah.
That's wildly
I
different.
thought you were going to say you were trying to buy women's jeans. So,
Well,
But women's jeans are
that's on a different day.
impossible.
but see,
And
I've learned probably something really valuable about buying women's jeans tonight. So,
yeah, but you can't trust a brand. So women are very particular. Like if we know what size we are in a brand, you can't just go and buy another brand in the same size because it could be ginormous or it could make you question every single thing you've eaten for weeks. Like it's just
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's a
haunting.
hot mess. So like
Yeah.
it really is the best way I can correlate round brushes.
okay, so you haven't gotten past, you got brushes and you got cardboard. Are you working in acrylic?
Yeah, so sorry, my rant.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
So I have GAC 100 to seal the cardboard so that the paint can rest on top, and it's acrylic paint. But yeah, it's just cardboard that I am painting on. I have my markers over in here in case I bomb this one because I'm trying to do all 3 that one reference. So if I bomb it, I'll pull the markers back out.
Cassandra, I'm glad to hear you say that because I was sitting here thinking, I don't want to, tell you how to run your life or anything, but like this drawing hive could run for the next 10 years and you still might not get a chance to draw a character that shares your same first name.
I know. There's not enough Cassandras. So I do want to get to her lovely, lovely smooth head. She just looks like the female Xavier. Is that what
Yep.
she's supposed to be?
She's his sister.
That's a
Okay, that
There you go.
explains it.
Male pattern baldness runs in the family.
Yeah.
When you think
Yeah.
really, when you think that hard, you can't get to keep your hair.
Totally.
Yeah.
Um, I think I need to disconnect and reconnect because I just can't get this camera to work.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hop out and come right back in. I'll see
Yeah,
you guys
while
in
you
just
do
a
that,
second.
We'll do
Yeah.
our educational thing.
that'd be
You go for
perfect
it.
timing, John.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, John, you ready?
I'm waiting for my intro.
I don't get tired of hearing that.
I know.
All right, I had to reshare, so I gotta go full
There
screen
we
again.
go.
We're gonna talk about an artist named Edwin Dickinson today. And
Yeah.
I know very little about Edwin Dickinson, but I look at a lot of his artwork. And I want I was actually with Cassandra when I figured out who he was, when he was introduced to me. I was walking through the bookstore at the Brandywine
Mm-hmm.
in Chadsworth, Pennsylvania. And we had stopped to visit there on the way to a lexicon, and I brought all the academy students and a number of academy instructors, and we were on a bus, including the director of the Society of Illustrators at the time, Terry Brown,
Terry.
my father, Gary Kelly, Greg Spolenka, George Pratt.
Christine.
There was a Chris met us there. He
Oh,
was
he met us there because it was definitely there.
Yeah, he was icon at that point. He created it. So we went to we walked into a books. We were in the books. I was in the bookstore walking around with Gary Kelly, and he goes, "Hey, John, did you ever see this artist before?" And he hands a book to me. It was on Edwin Dickinson, and it was really revealing and really, you know, uh, nice that the way it happened, because Gary was extremely influenced by Edwin Dickinson. And I never, I knew the Tomorrow de Olympica, a lot of his other influences, but I'd never even heard of Edwin Dickinson before. But he kind of walked me through some stuff, and maybe you can see it in this work, and you can relate, especially in palette. And there's some more work that is even more relatable to Gary. And Gary certainly, made it his own thing, but somebody he was, really willing to talk about, that influenced him heavily. And it was a great lesson for me. I can also see how much Edward Kinsella has looked at him.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But it's such a fun thing to do, is, have influences, people that you really are passionate about their work, and then figure out who their influences are, chase their influences. And number one, it keeps you from being so connected to one artist, but it is a very natural, it's a very natural and healthy way to absorb information. This reminds me, that makes me think about Gary a lot.
Hmm. Wow.
Especially this one. Look at that. Look at
Yeah.
that little still life in the left corner, the lower left.
That bowl.
Yep.
And just the stacking of figures too.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
Overlap. Yeah. Cheating perspective with overlap.
Yeah.
Gary would always say this to the students. It's like, your perspective doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to feel right. And he said the most powerful form of perspective is overlap, and he uses it all the time.
Yeah.
I love these things. They're so good.
Just the way he looks at shapes, just beautiful.
It's interesting. He was a little earlier than he thought. He was born in 1891 in New York, Seneca Falls, and he lived to be 87 and passed away in Massachusetts in 1978. And I thought he was I thought he was born a little later than he was, but just because of his, who his influences would be. He was very influenced by, see if I can remember, his instructor, oh my gosh, American Impressionist. I can't, I'll think of it in a second. I don't have all this stuff written down. I just read about it earlier. William Merritt Chase.
Mm.
And then William Merritt Chase studied with Hawthorne. And so he has a lot of roots back to Hawthorne and just fantastic his fantastic personal voice that he's developed, something that's very identifiable.
Wow.
And he really struggled as an artist. He made a lot of work, but there was times that he just, he had to move around, he had to take odd jobs. He relied on teaching for a long period of time, but was never financially successful to the very end of his life, which is a shame.
Ugh.
One of the reasons I thought that he was from a little bit later time period, because the work seemed more contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
Show a few landscapes here. Really simplistic landscapes. That was beautiful. They all had, he was he had great mood and emotion in everything he did. Use of materials,
Oh, wow.
his mark making. Now that reminds me of Gary tremendously.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one at the end that is just one of my favorite paintings of all time. Just killer.
John, so much of this, tell me if I'm like off on this, but so much of it reminds me of Brad Holland. Is
A little
that
bit. Yeah,
yeah.
a little bit. In a lot of what he did, he had a really interesting method of sometimes painting with reference and painting without reference, then building his figures from memory, some of them. And I think those are probably the ones that lean in, because Brad builds that way
Yeah.
at times. You got to watch Brad draw,
Mhm.
which I thought was really, really interesting and a little bit different than I thought he would have been when I first saw him draw. Sense of design, a real shape designer, somebody that thinks about, interest of shape, what makes interesting composition. Something like this would remind me of Brad a lot.
So much atmosphere, though, he builds in it too.
There's a few things. I put my very favorite stuff here at the end. This is one of my favorite still lifes. I love this painting. Always, I mean, the first time I saw it, I was, in fact, when Gary showed me the book, I had seen this painting before, and it's like that was the one identifiable piece that I remember going through the book.
How big is that piece? Do you know?
I have no idea. I would guess it's probably, 24 inches tall, maybe 3 feet tall.
Yeah, because like that kind of mark making that big, it just that's exciting.
It's a great piece.
Wow.
Talk about powerful shape design. Look at all the work that silhouette, that black cloth is doing, defining everything.
That reminds me of Ted Kinsella.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid of the tangent. No, those things were really intentional. They were very considered. This is the one I was talking about.
Wow.
What
Yeah.
does that remind you of, Scott? The
Well,
painting.
it reminds me of Gary's ballerina that reclines on the couch. Is that
Yeah,
the one you're thinking of?
I was thinking of that, but it's a painting of Linda reclining on
Oh yeah, yeah, right, yeah.
Gary's wife. There's his book, if you can find it. And that's it. Just thought it'd be a fun one to introduce. A lot of people don't know who he is, but
Yeah,
man,
that's a
he's
great one.
influenced, he's influencing more people now. Think about contemporary illustrators that have picked up on him. So. All right, Timmy, you can do what you need to do.
Thanks, John.
That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, thanks. That
It's a
was
good
great.
one.
It was fun. It was enjoyable for me to do that, to go and I love just going and doing a lot of looking. If you don't mind, let's talk to Scott first. Let's talk to
Yeah.
Scott and have him talk about what he's doing.
Yeah, what's your process look like tonight, Scott?
Making it up as I go along. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
No,
What are you working in?
at the moment it's watercolor, and then eventually I'm going to bring in some of these. This is my favorite acrylics, and I'm not somebody who really does a lot of acrylic painting, except recently I've really gotten into the golden so flat matte acrylics. The one thing that I don't like about them is you have to scoop them out with a palette knife. I wish they just had like a squeeze bottle tip, that would just make it easier to pour out the paint. But I really like these paints for they give that kind of opacity that I want to have out of acrylics without quite as runny a feeling as acrylics are, kind of known for having. So that'll be kind of a second layer that I'll put over it. And yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of slow building layers. So somebody who noticed, if anybody was watching at the very beginning, may have seen this, that I did a sketch before we started, just so I'd have something to transfer. Because I'm a slow artist and this thing is only 2 hours. So I figured for anybody to see anything fun, I needed to get kind of a jump on it. So this is just on tracing paper. I just draw freehand. I mean, I'm not tracing. I like the feel of tracing paper. I use Prismacolor pencils. And so there's a red layer first, and then I refine it with an indigo blue layer. And then I photocopied it down a little bit to size it to fit on this scrap of watercolor board I have. And say a prayer for me and let's see how it goes.
Well, find it very interesting that you both are approaching the way that you're approaching. Very similar how you're approaching.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just building basic silhouette, and then we'll start to carve into shapes and all that. Yeah.
John, can you toggle your camera? Do you
I
want
will.
to
I was
toggle-
kind
Yeah,
of
you
waiting till
taking a
they were
break?
done.
Yeah.
I kind of put together. I did 2 drawings.
Yeah,
Kind
because
of
I wanted to see Wolverine. But
Well-
we're always running promos for like new Drawing Hive people, and I think Wolverine is like I think it's gonna be a crowd pleaser. I think there might be a Wolverine ad. In which case there'll be a Marvel cease and desist ad.
Yeah,
Uh,
we may have trouble getting Andy Park back to.
yeah, exactly. Scott, I had a question for you. John, did I interrupt you? Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, and then I'm going to
Yeah.
talk about what I'm doing.
Scott, I had a question for you because you grew up like entrenched in comics, right?
Totally. Yeah. No,
Okay.
I mean, it's the reason I'm an artist is because of Jack Kirby. No question.
Okay, so
I almost did him tonight because of you, but I wasn't sure. We weren't sure you were going to be here or not.
Well, when I do a proper announced episode, maybe we'll make that.
no,
they
this
can
is
be
like
the
a
artist.
special episode. This is Scott. This is not your big blowout.
Not my
episode.
okay. This is not my
Don't-
spotlight.
It's
don't
just a
worry.
warm up.
Basically,
This
we're
is-
gonna just keep saying it's not your blowout episode, so we just
Yeah.
keep putting it back.
Okay. Hey,
Exactly.
all right.
Exactly. So I was thinking because for me, I did not grow up like comics being like the North Star for me, but
Mhm.
I was like in 7th grade when the first, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which to
Yeah.
me felt like the first like major like bringing it to cinemas and it making like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like
Totally.
it
Yeah.
was kind of the
that was
beginning.
the first real Marvel movie you could say in a lot of ways. I totally agree.
Okay, so I felt that way. But like I was still a kid when that transition happened.
Mhm.
So like I didn't have all of this ammo for like what I thought it should be because I was in 7th grade, right? So
Right.
but you got to see that transition as a young adult, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would have been Oh, I'm not going to be able to do math on the fly like this, but
But
yeah, a young
you know,
young adult when the first X-Men movies came out and stuff,
yeah,
so as a
but like,
long time comic book fan, I was super excited by those, and it was
mhm,
only, in hindsight that I realized, like, I mean, Hugh Jackman aside, who was fantastic right from the get-go, like, I
mhm,
think most fans would tell you we kind of settled for those movies because it was the best we had gotten at that time, so
uh,
we tried to stay positive, but it wasn't what we
yeah.
were really looking for.
You already answered my question basically because I was like, I was just wondering like what the feeling was because there was no reference for like what it could be,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? And so you're like, and you, so yeah, so you're like, I mean, and it's so interesting because the evolution of these stories that have evolved over time, and maybe this is a guy that maybe this is coming from somebody that doesn't know enough about like the source, but it just seems like every few years when something has become played out that they find a way, and like Deadpool was one of them, which was basically they were like, I bet we can make $1 billion with an R-rated, Marvel film,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And it succeeded. I felt like Logan kind of stepped into that space a little bit,
Mhm.
but especially Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I was just curious about like what your relationship was because gosh, it's been definitely like a roller coaster. And do you feel like you were following, was it always Marvel or was there like a publisher that you really identified with more than like the whatever the
Yeah.
the
As a
Marvel
kid, I
universe.
was I was just a comics fan, so I liked Marvel and DC equally. So I was born in '74, but really was child turning into a teenager in the '80s, and at that point, Marvel had the better month to month comics, and
Mhm,
DC had the better like specialty things. You had Frank Miller doing Dark Knight Returns,
mhm,
and then actually one of my all-time favorites to this very day, which I just think is a masterpiece, is Miller and David Mazzucchelli did Batman Year One, which if you haven't seen, any of you on the panel, I really recommend this to you. And funny enough, little plug here for my buddy Scott Dunbier, who used to work at IDW Publishing, literally waiting for me at home right now in a box unopened because it just arrived today. Is I don't know if you guys have seen these books called artist editions, but they're published by a San Diego-based publisher named IDW, who licenses for Marvel and DC. And they go to artists who have done seminal works, who either the artists still have the artwork in their hands, or they know who the collectors are, and they're able to like assemble raw scans of the actual art boards and then put it together in a hardcover book that's printed at the exact 11 by 17 size of the art board. So it's like literally a book edition that gets you something as close as you're ever going to get to actually holding the original art in your hands. And they scan the boards in color. So you see the blue pencil that the artists do like the initial sketching in. You'll see the
wow.
white out because, like the boards have all tanned, from the acid in them and stuff like that. And so this is a series that's been going on for years now. And I don't have every single one. They're expensive books, but I have a number of them. I mean, honestly, I think I have like this might be my 12th or 13th of them that I own. And it just arrived today. That Batman Year One has been one I've been coveting for a while because I just think that the Mazzucchelli art in it is a masterpiece of 80s comics. So that's sitting for me waiting at home when
That's
I go home
Yeah.
after
awesome.
this tonight. So
Yes,
So
Okay.
you chose to be here over getting to go look at that. We're
I
impressed.
did, right? I know. Let's all take a moment and appreciate my sacrifice here for a second. I'm really glad you noticed that, Cassandra.
You're
That's
getting
thoughtful of
a
you.
slow clap from me over here.
Thank you.
I have to tell a funny story about Scott, and came as a, oh, I don't know how many years ago it was, 6 years ago. He'd been back and visited the academy a number of times, but Bill Sienkiewicz was
Yeah.
the first year that Bill came and visited.
This
So
2016. Yep.
okay, so and I know that Scott's a big fan of Bill Sienkiewicz, but I didn't know how much. And so I was prepping to put together a talk. Bill was going to do a demo and a talk, a presentation about his work. And I started asking, I was talking to Scott about it and started realizing Scott really knew what he was talking about. And I asked him, I said, well, why don't you do the interview? You'd be better at it than I would. You'd ask the questions and stuff. So Scott sat with Bill and did this presentation. I think we did a Facebook Live, right? It was like the first.
No, we didn't actually, and I kind of regret that. I wish we had a record of it, but no, it was just for the
Well,
students who were there.
it was really funny. First of all, I found out Bill had sent me to a website
Mhm.
that was a collection of all of his work, which does not exist anymore, which I
Oh,
just
no
found.
kidding.
Yeah, I just found out from recently from Bill the last time I talked to him. And he said, well, you can just pull work down from there. And I'd met Bill a couple of times. I'd met him long time ago, and then reconnected with him. George and I ran into him, and we started having conversation. Finally convinced him to come out to the academy. And he sends me to this website, and I'm like 8 hours into this pulling work off. And I literally had like 1,200 images that I had downloaded, and I'm only to like 1985.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
I was doing it chronologically. And I called George and I said, man, I can't believe. And he goes, yeah, he's a comic artist. He makes it. There were 10,000 images on that website. And so I asked in front of actually a group of students, I said, Bill, how did you put that together? And he looked at me like, really? He goes, I didn't put that together. And I said, well, whose website is it? He goes, I don't know. It's a fan. Some fan put all that together. And I'm
Mhm.
just like,
Yep.
that's unbelievable that somebody would care that much about it and be such a fan to spend that. I mean, he had to spend 1,000 hours putting that thing together. And then
Can,
anyway, it was apparent to me, and Bill made this comment to me. He said, Scott knows more about my work than I know about my work.
well, so just to tell my side of that story, because this you'll also get a laugh out of this, John. So John had done a I don't think it was Facebook Live, but like the precursor to it wasn't, it wasn't being streamed on YouTube
I
yet.
can I can I can confirm, Scott. It was Facebook Live.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
so
yeah.
John did, this is before I came out in 2016. I think it was that same year, but like in the, the winter or spring or something
Yeah.
like that. And you did an interview with Bill, and yeah, you had downloaded a bunch of stuff and you were going through things chronologically. And, one of the things we all learned at that point is that Bill's a great natural storyteller, and he's got, he's been in the industry for decades. He's got a lot of
Yep.
stories to tell. And so my recollection is that at the end of that interview with him, you got through like maybe 30 images or something like that. And you were in like 1983, and like his seminal first work started in 86. And so as a fan, I was sitting there going, man, I mean, like this was massively entertaining, but like we didn't get where I wanted him to go, So fast forward to later that summer, and I've come out to assist that summer at the Illustration Academy. And it's the day of Bill's presentation. And John, you said to me, "Oh, I'm just going to use this the same presentation. Like I've already got the slides loaded from this previous talk." And I'm sitting there going, "I have got to get John to not do this. Like this is because then we're just not going to get anywhere, like." And so I very sneakily say, "Hey, so I really know his work and I'm a fan. What if I take a crack at that? Maybe I could edit it to make sure that you get to some like kind of more important work." And you're like, "Oh, hey, yeah, that'd be great. Go for it." So I narrowed it down to, I think it was about 75, 80 slides. And I remember thinking it's already, probably 30 too many, but at least it's going to move along and we'll hit some real major points of his career. And then I'm thinking to myself, now I need to go Inception style and convince John and let him think it was his idea to let me just do the interview, because I'll make sure this thing like moves along to the proper points. And I don't know how I did it, but all of a sudden John looks at me as we're talking, and I show him the images, and here's what I called it down to. And John just goes, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Oh, me? I mean, me?" And I'm thinking inside, it worked. I actually
I'm
performed
brilliant.
Inception on John English, and he fell for my trap. And then in all honesty, so we
Chad, all
ended
you
up
had to
talking.
do is say, can I do that?
Well,
Yeah.
if you hadn't taken the bait, I was prepared to say, "John, you just need to let me do this," So, but I will say that it was a little. I think we went like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. Now, I'm sure there are some students who must have been exhausted by the end of it, and maybe some of them are watching now and will be able
That's
to chime in on that. But I know Bill and I just had a blast, and it was an honor, and it was just super fun, and he had so many great stories and insights. And, I mean, he's a legend in the field. He is a living legend in the field. And it was pretty
Well,
amazing to
we'll
get to,
convince him to come on here, and
Yeah.
you need to be here that night.
that would be great. Be super fun. What we need to do is send somebody over to his house to help him out with like getting a camera so we can actually watch him draw and paint. Cause he's done
I
a number of
know.
these type of things, but he's always just chatting. And I know what I want to see and what everybody else wants to see is we want to watch him, make the magic live on camera.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
I was
funniest.
trying to understand how he uses lighter fluid. Like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was a guest
It's the
speaker.
most it's
He
the most
uses
viral
move
video
around
we've ever
himself.
shared on YouTube. His lighter fluid video has like 40,000 views.
Well,
But
and it's like cigarette car lighter
yeah.
fluid. It's not just
Yeah,
lighter
because I
fluid.
was
It's a
even just
very
like,
highly specific type of lighter
he was
fluid.
so
Yeah.
casual. He was like, well, because it works like this and it dries so quickly. And I was like, so you just thought one day, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna pull out lighter fluid. Like just it's
That's what cracks me up too.
such a
It's just
boss
like, what,
move.
yeah, where was the original, like, wait, I maybe I'll try this, and he doesn't
Or
remember
just
Funniest.
anymore,
like
but
his mom being like, please, can we not do with the lighter fluid? Like, can we?
so
On the topic of Sienkiewicz and the Marvel universe, though, this is like peak COVID, like the week or two after lockdown. I get a random call, not to my personal phone number, but to the school's phone number, which gets forwarded to me. And so I answer it like a total like, hi, this is Timmy with Visual Arts Passage. and and he's like, Timmy, this is Bill, and it's Sienkiewicz. And he's like, and it was, for those of you who don't know, like during COVID, like phone was ringing off the hook. Like everybody wanted to do online art educate. Like so it was nonstop calls. And it was like, whoa, Bill Sienkiewicz is on the line. I still get, we work with Bill, but I still get excited when I hear from him and he was like, I'm trying to set up a call. I've been watching your guys's drawing sessions and I want to set one up just with my friend. And we just want to draw together. And I was like, yeah, well, what do you need help with? You just need to get a Zoom account. I was like, explaining the basics of Zoom, like before anybody
yeah.
really knew about it. And he was like, yeah, okay. So my friend, his name is Taika.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, he's actually a fairly successful director. Have you ever heard of Taika Waititi? And I was like, yeah, I think so. I'm fairly familiar. Yeah. No, anyways, he's like the most humble dude ever. I loved him. He it was like he didn't even bother to name drop. I had to like pull it out of him. But yeah, Bill's one of my favorites. He's
You
so
know
much
who
fun.
a major collector of his work, or at least a huge fan who's collected some of his work is John Hamm.
No
Yeah.
kidding, really?
Yeah, the actor John Hamm. Yeah.
He just did a commission for him like in
Yeah,
the couple of months.
Yeah, he did like a madman portrait of John Hamm as Don Draper for him, like special
That's
commission.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
They're made
amazing.
for each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I was going to say something about my or we're
Just
about to switch.
really
aren't we?
quick, I just want to say we should move on to the next pose because we went pretty long on this first one. We're about 15 over. So please post your work to Instagram. We're going to check it all out. At the end of the night, it's hashtag Wilson Hive, like Wade Wilson. Hashtag Wilson Hive. Hashtag Drawing Hive and At Visual Arts Passage. Post it now. Don't wait. Last week there was a major delay with Instagram, so please post it right now. John, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just wanted I did these two drawings kind of as warm-ups, and I started thinking, and I do this a lot. If I'm really serious about getting a likeness of somebody and making it accurate, I take I get a drawing, I get it to a point that I think that, okay, this is pretty good. Now let's do it again and see what's wrong and right about it. And so really took I did this one first on the right, and it's a little elongated, it's kind of, it's funny because my board's at an angle and my camera's at an angle, so it actually probably looks more accurate than the one on the left, but it's slightly elongated, and it's elongated from the lower part of his face, from the nose to the bottom of the chin. And that's a weakness I have. I tend to like, I get everything right, and I establish my shape at the top of the drawing. And if they do get off, they're usually long, because I work my way down from once I get the eyes and nose, and sometimes they get a little bit long at the bottom. So I went back with that in mind. I did another one pretty quickly, but just trying to really nail the shape and get everything right. And the experience of what you learn from the first one, I almost always can make it better in the second one and make it more fresh. You start to become, like you recognize it while you're drawing. It's like, oh, I wish I would have done that down a little bit. Or, one of the obvious things to me is the top of this ear, and the top of the eye. The top of this ear, the eye's a little bit lower. And it just, some things got compressed in through here. I think I could make either one of them work pretty well. I can correct a little bit of, but with putting lights back over the top, and then also maybe reinstate some of my darks. I use, like in this type of drawing, like I did last week, I'm using new pastels, and I just draw with two pastels. Sometimes I'll bring more color to them. Most of the things on the wall behind me here are just done with, some of them just one pastel, and there's one that's got a little bit of color to it, but some of them are just the color of the paper and a dark pastel. But these, two little pastels, and the whole goal at the beginning is exactly what both of those other artists in the room are doing, what Scott and Cassandra are doing, is they're establishing the shape, and they're getting the silhouette and the shape right, and then they're bringing the detail into it. They're bringing, they're drawing into the shape. And anything that you do, I highly suggest trying to think that way. Thinking, trying to get likeness in line is much harder to do. It's much harder for me to see that way. Scott, you probably didn't really draw in shape until you came to the Illustration Academy.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
You were
No
probably
way.
approaching everything with line.
Yep.
And my dad had formalized a method of drawing that is just get the silhouette shape first. And basically I can do this for you right here. I'll do it on the one I don't like as much, or the one that I think is not as accurate. But once I establish, and I can do this with my lights and my darks together. If I was doing a figure, I would do that. Sometimes when I'm just doing the portrait, doing a portrait, I'll just put my dark down. It's all done just in one pastel. And then I just take my hand, broadside of my hand, and I pull it all together. And I'm creating that mid-tone. My drawing's still there. My roadmap is still there. And the silhouette that I want, I can go back and I can clean it up. If I wanted to on the outside, I could carve if I was I don't really want to. But I could go back in with a light, and really define it and clean it up. So it's a more obvious silhouette. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't, but then I wouldn't go back and establish anything else until I put a bunch of lights in. And so I started bringing my lights into the drawing. Anyway, I just wanted to, that second drawing of going back and analyzing what you did. And because you remember so much of your drawing, you're concentrating on something for 20 or 30 minutes to get it right. And then the areas that aren't exactly right. And so it's real easy for me to go back and produce another one with those things in mind. Now, other things might pop up, but But once you've done it once, it's easier and you're so much more informed the second time. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about.
Also, it gives you it gives you more wiggle room to adapt and adjust. And I think that's what was really so exciting when I learned that at Illustration Academy, was just the opportunity to just focus on the silhouette and then bring things in, and then I could fix it. Versus if you hone in on one piece and expand from there, you have to make the assumption that that first bit is perfect and everything has to adapt to that one spot.
Yeah, there's something about seeing things, training your eye to see in shape. And that's really what it comes down to. Drawing linear, what you're really doing is you're lassoing things in shape. And it's harder, like if you just have a line of a figure, it's not near as powerful as having a value to it that's establishing the shape. Line is an abstraction anyway. We see everything in value and in shape in the real world when you're looking at things. And so, training yourself to get the shape right first, and then everything else just falls into place. And I like this is because, my darks and my midtones are already there. I can go back in and just concentrate on, kind of rendering and pulling some lights into it to explain light hitting form. I love this pose, but I'm not a big fan of the lighting in it. It's a little. That's all right.
Scott, there's a question for you.
Far away.
From Christopher. What's your dream comic cover to work on?
Wow. Probably a Captain America piece. So for me, the first comic I ever saw was when I have an older brother, 2 years older than me. I was 3 years old. And for anybody who knows their comics history, Jack Kirby, really had already been working in the industry for a while when the 60s hit, but he really launched Marvel into, what has paved the way for the movies and just the corporate behemoth that Marvel is today. And he got disillusioned with Stan Lee, who was kind of showboating and taking all the credit and making himself into quite the celebrity. And Jack was meanwhile toiling away for a lousy page rate, and doing 3-4 books a month. So finally, Jack got wooed over to DC for a while and made some work that I love dearly. So that would actually be my other response. Actually, would be either a Captain America or Mr. Miracle, anything to do with those two characters. So that was one of the 70s DC characters, was Mr. Miracle. And then he ended up going back to Marvel and did kind of like a second lap on Captain America. And it was one of those issues, I think it's number 212, was my first comic. So keep in mind, I was 3 years old. I couldn't read, but I could read the pictures. You know what I mean? So I looked at it endlessly because I could kind of tell what was going on, this battle between Captain America and the Red Skull. And I remember having a babysitter read it to me. And, so once I could finally read, so I have that exact issue sitting in a box somewhere, and it's just like in shreds. I just read it like to death. And then finally one day went and got myself like a pristine copy to put in the spinner rack that I've got in my studio. But so all that to say that, yeah, I've just always had a real special affinity for that character, right from when I was 3 years old. He was like the first superhero as far as I was concerned. And it's pretty cool that I fell in love with that character from, the character's originator and creator, which, I had no idea at the time. But
Wow.
Thank you for the question. Appreciate it.
Yeah, someone else asked, do you like Commandi also? I don't know.
I appreciate it. I didn't fall in love with that one quite the same way. But yeah, the Jack Kirby Fourth World Saga, I was big into that. I'm just a huge fan of the concepts. It's a clunky read. You can't go home again. I have these hardcover collections that DC issued probably gosh, now I think about it, that was probably 15 years ago, these beautiful hardcover collections that what I really appreciated, and I know a lot of fans complained about it at the time, and I loved it, was DC. It was the first time I'd ever seen them do this. It was these hardcover collections, but the interiors were newsprint, like a really high quality newsprint. And I just thought that was genius because it really made then, even though they had redone the coloring digitally, it's like it recaptured the exact aesthetic of the original
Yeah.
comics and that 70s vibe, but just, a little bit higher quality. And I've definitely seen some archival material, like stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s. When you see it on slick coated paper and it's been recolored in Photoshop, it's like it can look really garish. But these Fourth World editions that they did for Kirby, I just thought just nailed it right on the head, just like perfectly captured what those comics felt like and even smelled like, from when I was a kid. So I adore those collections. I look at them all the time. I mentioned the artist editions earlier. There's a great one of Mr. Miracle that I have. Just have a great affinity for that character because he was just a random character I discovered as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're wonderful in concept and in scope and clunky in writing. That's where we realized that Stan
Yeah.
was actually bringing something to the combo of the two of them, even though
Oh, interesting.
it's become pretty clear at this point. Jack was basically doing all the plotting essentially. Stan would give
Yeah.
him 1 to 2 lines sometimes. Sometimes I think he'd give him a synopsis, but sometimes, he would just say, "Oh, have the Fantastic Four do this," and then Jack would
Yeah.
go and compose the whole story, and you can see even dialogue suggestions in the margins of the original
Yeah.
art. But there's no question, Stan brought the banter, the witty.
I think that's so interesting because, well, I mean, I think it's as far as the story goes, I mean, that's a story we're all addicted to, which is the genius got the thing that he or she was entitled to stolen away,
Yeah.
by the capitalist.
Mhm.
And usually it's not that binary. I'm not saying that things don't get stolen and, appropriated by like the capitalist like guy or person, but yeah, there usually was like a reason, right?
Well, I will say I'm a little further on this particular instance of
Yeah.
I'm giving Stan his
You're
flowers
like
for what he
barely
did
giving
for
it. Yeah.
dialogue, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's as far as it
Yeah,
goes.
yeah,
Other
yeah.
than that, no.
I want to also
Yeah.
be clear. Like, I'm not saying like it was 50-50, everybody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's not binary. It's like it's an interesting where you kind of have to like, I don't know, give it. No, I don't know any. I know the like mythology of that story, but I know it's still pretty limited. As a person that I wanted to ask you this because I went and saw the most recent, Deadpool and Wolverine movie, and we were talking after it, we were talking about like the evolution of comics, the evolution of these stories, the idea of like variants. Do you know when like variants became like a thing that they leaned on pretty heavily? Like when that
Well,
became
in
part of the
comics, the
story?
idea of like a
Yeah.
multiverse for both universes, that's been around
Mhm.
for like ever. And,
Yeah.
like, I mean, literally in DC's case, dating back to like the 60s,
Okay.
where
Yeah.
they were looking for a way to reconcile that they had all these World War II versions of their characters, right? Like Batman and Superman, but
Uh-huh.
also in Green Lantern and everything. And then they configured, in particular, the Flash and Green Lantern in the 60s and had hit comics on their hands. And then Justice League was a hit. And, so now they're trying to reconcile, well, what happened to that different looking Flash? What happened to that different looking Green Lantern? And, those
Oh,
stories were in the 40s. Those are now, 20, 25 years ago. Now, what do we do? So this one writer, I think it was, somebody's going to yell at me if I get this wrong, but I think it was Gardner Fox. But if I'm
okay.
wrong on that, apologies, internet. But he wrote this comic, The Flash of Two Worlds, where he came up with the idea of Earth One, Earth Two. This is getting so nerdy now. I just apologize to anybody who's
No, I
cringing,
appreciate
but
it.
yeah, just the idea of that. Okay, there's two worlds, to like like a multiverse, right? And here's
Yeah.
where this is the world where all those World War II comics took place, and this is the world now where all the contemporary ones are taking place. So that dates that concept, and playing around with that, like I said, goes back to the 60s.
I think it's really interesting because I assumed, so I incorrectly assumed, or I believe I incorrectly assumed that at some point, and I assumed it was probably like in the 60s or 70s. So I was close. That it happened not in order to maintain like a like the value of the story or like the veracity of the story, but I just was like, they were like, how the hell can we keep making money on Spider-Man, guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, and
That was my
nowadays,
yeah,
yeah,
because
mm,
that's the concurrent setting is just like,
sure.
how can we keep making money? But it's super interesting to know that it was actually just like these stories don't make, how do we make these stories make sense? We need them to make sense, right?
Well, and even then, I don't think so much that there was a need as much as, back then too, you got to remember, nowadays you've got comic creators who I think justifiably and rightly are, they're taking a real pride in their craft and they're trying to make the best work they can. They were trying to make work that lasts. Back in the 60s, it was just a gig. Most of the illustrators who worked in comics
Yeah.
were essentially, they would tell you they were failed editorial illustrators. You know what I mean? Like the majority of them wanted to work for the magazines. This was where they were slumming, and so to them it was very disposable, very throwaway work. Now there were some exceptions, so I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but I know that for many of them it was just like, and particularly the writers, it was like they all wanted to be writing like crime fiction novels and stuff like that, but this is where
Okay.
they could get work. So I imagine it wasn't even so much like an editorial mandate, is my guess, and a historian can correct me if I'm wrong here, that made him write that story, The Flash of Two Worlds, as much as just like, I got to fill the deadline this way. I got an issue to write. Oh, hey, here's an idea. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this will do. Like I guarantee whoever wrote that story, there's no way he could have had any idea you are going to lay the groundworks for something that then will become the cornerstone of a multi-billion-dollar franchise as a concept going forward, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
Marvel is clearly all in on this whole multiverse thing. They've already announced the Fantastic Four movie, which is filming right now. A big fan wish list thing for a long time has been, wouldn't it be great to have a Fantastic Four movie that was actually set in like the swinging 60s, like right
Right.
at the early 60s, just the way it was when Jack and Stan first did it. Well, now they're taking advantage of the multiverse and they've announced, yeah, Fantastic Four is set in an alternate universe and it's going to be in the 60s,
Yeah.
and eventually they're going to port them over to the main Marvel universe, and we'll see how that all goes and whatever. I think it's next summer's big film is going to
Huh.
be Fantastic Four. And I kind of love that this whole multiverse idea is actually allowing them to take some bigger creative risks, right? and
Right.
and take some bigger swings just to see where they can go with it.
Yeah. All
So
right.
Tim,
On top.
remember right before we started, Timmy and I said, just don't bring up comics. We'll be okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
whatever, I was brought on for it and it.
I love it,
I'm,
Scott.
he's joking.
Totally
um,
joking. I love it.
now that we've got all the nerds hooked though,
Yeah. Like,
I
yeah,
want to
it's my
talk
episode.
about I want to talk about the sponsors of this show, which is Visual Arts Passage. John and I run Visual Arts Passage. It's an online art school. If you're not familiar, we run online classes for illustration and fine arts. What really sets this program apart from your typical like online class is that we really set you on a path. We're very much a program not for the hobbyist, not for a person that wants to learn how to hold a pencil right. We are a program for a person who wants to build a career doing what they love, whether that be in comics, editorial illustration, publishing, character design, getting your artwork in a gallery, all of those things. And the way our school works is you join it and you attend classes on a semester basis. Each class is 10 weeks long. And your first couple classes, assuming you're an introductory student, going to help you build up your skills. And then from there, your next class, it's all about learning how to apply those skills towards a practical a practical goal, a practical interest, whether that be like comics or something like that. And then from there, you end up into portfolio development, learning how to put together a body of work that's going to appeal to art directors, to galleries, things like that. All during this whole journey, you're you're learning from artists who are embedded in the industry. These are artists who currently work at galleries like Cassandra and John, not work at galleries, but they have their artwork in galleries. John does not work the front desk at a gallery. No,
Right.
yeah. But you're going to be learning from artists that like Dale Stefanos, who teaches portfolio development, has his work regularly in publications like Rolling Stone and Time Magazine. And so you're getting information that is direct from the industry. That's not something you'll find at a lot of schools. And so the whole time from day one to your final class, day one, it's what do you want to do? And every class in between that is going to be what do you need to do to achieve that goal? And we will put you in touch with the artists who are doing that at the highest level, who are excited and I think inspired to share and pass that down. I always call it like, it's not my original saying, but like sending the elevator back down. We find artists who are really, really, really passionate about helping other artists who are trying to jump into the industry. We find the ones who really want to help others get into it. And I'm actually very excited to say, Scott, you're one of those guest artists that we've got coming up. I'm really excited. This coming fall, we've got Francis Vallejo, Iris Compiet, Jason Sealer, Afua Richardson, Tony Rodriguez, and Scott Anderson. My brother said, you got to get this political stuff off your website. Hey, I don't think he saw this one either, though. But no, I'm really excited to have you on next semester, Scott. And you get to learn from all these people. Scott's going to bring some wisdom into the classroom. Jason, Iris, Francis, they're kind of all from across the industry. So they all bring a little different flavor. And you'll learn, if you join the illustration program.
Oh,
And
Well,
Timmy, we just lost you for a
What?
moment there. You just blurbed.
Can you hear my audio though?
Now I
Yeah,
can.
now it's back. You just dropped
Okay,
out for like
sorry.
5 seconds.
Uh-oh. Well, you're going to learn from the best. And what I would say right now is we are currently enrolling, and this week is early bird enrollment. So you don't want to miss it. It's code CHIRP, and you save $200 on your enrollment. So code CHIRP, like a bird, CHIRP. Yeah. So sign up now if you're considering it, and don't wait.
well said, Timmy.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to follow that and say one last thing is the intent of our whole program is to help you establish an outcome. That outcome is usually something, your body of work for a gallery or a portfolio aimed at the illustration world. And there's a reality to it. And so I love having people like Scott and Lauren Penapento and our guests come on and, affirm that, this is what we do. This is what they do to work in the industry, what somebody has to go through. And it's all about the work that you make. And that's
And also too, I think most people who, if you've been watching this show regularly, you'll know. I'm sure you've heard John mention many times about the Illustration Academy, which was just the brick and mortar precursor to Visual Arts Passage. And so both Cassandra and I are Illustration Academy alums. And so we received the same kind of training that you guys are going to get through this program. You're just getting it in the online context as opposed to the face-to-face. But the fact that we're even here as guests is a testament to the success of the teaching and the methodologies that John's been doing now for a couple of decades. So this is the place to go.
make that 3 decades.
Well, and also I think the concept of, paying it forward, or the elevator analogy, I already forgot
Yeah.
that you used to me, but like that whole concept, like because it was the kindness shown to us by the artists when we were in Illustration Academy, where they
Totally.
didn't hold back with technique and how they worked. And it was so exciting to have somebody just like lay it all out and be like, here's what I use, this is how I do it. And then you watch them do it. And those skills, seeped into my brain. And, I kept using that information I still use that information. Like that's what built
Yeah.
the skill that I have to then go the direction I did. So that's what's so exciting is I totally want to work with people and show them what I do because that's what John and everybody at the Illustration Academy did for me. And it's just exciting to get to share that, to be a part of, sharing it
Mhm.
to another group like it was shared for me.
When I
The
was
same.
in call, oh, go ahead,
Go
Timmy.
ahead. No, I'd rather hear you. People want to hear you talk, Scott.
I was just going to say, when I was in college at Willamette University, where I got a great liberal arts education, I'm very happy with having gone to Willamette. But in art, I was in a department that was, being taught from people who had been trained in the 60s in the abstract expressionist movement. And
Mm.
so, my painting classes were largely comprised of just kind of, here's canvas and some paint, go for it, like have fun. And here I was as a young adult in really craving what I called the yes, no, here's how it's done answers. And I couldn't find that in college. And so it was post college that I was searching for the kind of program that would give me what I was looking for. And I learned about the Illustration Academy thanks to a now sadly defunct magazine, but it was great in its heyday, called Step by Step Graphics. And they had a whole feature article on John and the Academy. And I remember looking at the artwork and at the student artwork and just dying over it. I remember seeing like a Doug Chayka piece that was in it and just thinking, if this school could get me to draw and paint like this, like all my dreams will come true. This will be exactly like, this is the kind of training I'm looking for. And it exactly was that. It's one of the rare experiences in my life where something not only met the hype, but exceeded it, where I thought, maybe this is where the answers lie. And then I got there, and within the first week of my first summer at the Academy, I knew this is the place. This is where the answers are. This is where the people are going to give me the straight, clear answers I'm looking for.
Well, you got unedited, unadulterated Mark English.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh man.
he was spectacular.
He
Yes.
was.
Yes, he was. Now, I have a question for you, Scott. Do you remember the poster design for your year for Illustration Academy? Because, like, it shouldn't shock you what really, really pulled me in. The poster for my year was CF Payne, and it was the dogs in the convertible. So, like, spoke to my
Yeah.
heart.
Right. Yeah, totally. Boy, that is a great question, Cassandra. I'm trying to think. I think, and John can correct me if I'm wrong. I wonder if it was the silhouette painting by your dad. That, do you know the one I'm talking about, where it's a woman with a headdress, and so it's just like a very graphic
Oh,
silhouette
yeah.
with like a lot of white spatter paint and stuff. I kind of think that was used as the poster as well.
I think
But I might be
some
wrong
reason,
on that.
Scott, I'm thinking you were there. I think it was the Gary Kelly juggler on the unicycle.
No, I think that came after me, honestly, because that's when you guys even made that little juggler into like your icon for a
That's
little
right. That's
while,
right.
right? Yeah,
That's right.
and that was in the
That was our
2000s.
first. That was our first year at Richmond.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. When
Wow.
I saw you guys, it was at William Jewell,
Yeah.
over in Liberty,
I
Missouri.
remember you being there.
I
Scott,
was first year at
Cassandra,
Richmond, and it was the convertible.
I was just gonna ask, so did you both see these posters at your schools? Is
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So
I did
this is
not,
my
because Willamette
yeah.
didn't know or anything about this program. So no, I
Yeah.
saw the step-by-step article, and I remember
Uh-huh.
I think I called the number that was either listed in the article or whatever, and totally expecting there to be like, I don't know, like the front office of Illustration Academy Inc. or whatever. And it was John's studio. And so John picks up and he's like, yeah, this is John
Yeah.
English. And I was totally tongue tied. I was like, well, I want to go to your school. So, and we talked for about 20 minutes. And then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's it. I was sold, and I signed up, and I went for 3 summers, 97, 98, 99.
Yeah.
You
I,
beat me
I
in the
that always
summers.
that always cracks me up when somebody calls and they're like, I need to talk to the decision maker, and I'll be like, press 2.
Timmy speaking.
Yeah. Hi, this is Timmy. No, I asked about where you saw the posters because we still occasionally, we don't do it too much, just to, I mean, I don't like sending out like just like thousands of prints to where you don't know where they're going to end up. But we've put prints up like in a lot of illustration departments, right? So in the audience, please let me know if you pay attention to community boards in places like colleges and stuff on campuses and whatnot. Because I was telling Cassandra about when I was in New York a couple weeks ago, at Syracuse's place. I
Mhm.
was I have a bunch of drawing hive. My brother, who's very he's a big supporter of the school, does a lot for the school that we never talk about behind the scenes stuff. But he made all these flyers for drawing hive, and he was like, when you're in New York, you're like, he goes, you're within like 5 minutes of like, like 7 major art schools. Like, you should drop these flyers off at the schools. And I was like, it's gonna be real hard to get into these illustration departments in the summer. And he was like, oh, I bet you can do it. And he gave me these flyers, and I I did like
It's
like
so
a
funny.
heist. What's that,
Well,
Cassandra?
this is so funny because I was getting like updated texts as you
Yeah.
and G were going to different schools to see which
Yeah.
ones you could get in.
Yeah, so we're on city bikes. We're on city bikes with Scott, in Santa Barbara. I know I know about the electric bikes that go way too fast.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we are zipping around Manhattan on these bikes with my like my little backpack of flyers. And all I wanted to was just get them in these like on some community boards in an illustration department. And um NYU. Okay, so I thought about doing a blog post of like rating the security of
I was
illustration
waiting for
departments
this blog post. I was
around the
Totally.
waiting for
country, because NYU, 10 out of 10. Great security. They shut me down. They were like, get the hell out of here. They're like, and I was like, can I leave some flyers? And they were like, no, nothing. Get out of here. So clearly tonight, 0 NYU students here.
Or
And then
are
it was,
there? Is there
what's
anybody here from NYU? I
Oh,
would love to like have
that would
that
be pretty
statement
thrilling.
refuted.
Um, and then I went to I'm trying to think of who was the 0 out of 10 security. Uh, Parsons. Parsons, I might as well have gone up to the security and said, "Hi, I'm Mr. Parsons. I am here to visit my illustration department." No, I just like walked in and I got to see the whole illustration department. It was really amazing. And it was really cool. And I talked with some students and put some flyers up, but I mean, like, Midtown Manhattan, like no security at all. Pretty shocking, student
You're
laptops
living
everywhere.
proof. You're
Yeah.
living proof now of all those movies where we've seen where it's, all about, oh, just walk in and look confident, like
Oh,
just
yeah,
look
so
like you
And you're
belong
in the
there.
audience going, that could never happen.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So you know what? Scott, you're dead on, because our first stop was NYU, and Gianna cannot lie. She's incapable of it. And when I say she can't lie, she can't embellish. She can't. and
She's a better person than you, Timmy. I
she's
mean,
a
that's
better
part of
person
it.
than me. She has a compass of morality
Yeah, that you don't possess.
that I think is unusual and unnecessary. No,
You
she
are
was
your
like,
father's son for that comment.
we went into NYU. Yeah, like father, like son, dead on, Cassandra. We went into NYU, and Gianna, like, I like beeline it to the elevator because I'm like, that's clearly where we need to go. And Gianna's like, well, I got to talk to the security guard. And I was like, what are you doing? So at the next stop, I was like, you don't do that. You just beeline it. And if anybody asks, you say, illustrate, you just say where you're going.
You ask
But
forgiveness, not permission.
exactly. And also, just reminder everybody, we're doing a good thing here. we're we're spreading a flyer about a free drawing event. But no, I have a whole reel that I made, and I sent it to Salacus, and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, I think it's alarming how well you can film while riding a city bike going like 30 miles an hour. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, maybe not great for the internet. I think people are going to go after you for that. So but yeah, NYU, really great security. if you are considering going to Parsons, I would not leave your laptop at your desk, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting text updates
Oh yeah, I went to SVA too. Yeah.
like security for Parsons, 0 out of 10. Ability to like get new people here in Drawing Hive, 10 out of 10. Like it was a hilarious
Yeah.
rating system that he created.
Yeah, it was fun. It, it's a fun, like, I don't know. That was a fun day in New York because I don't really enjoy doing touristy things. So it's fun to have like when you're in a new city, just like have like an errand to do,
Hmm.
because you kind of get to explore it. You get to talk with a lot of new people,
Lots of security guards.
lots. That's basically all I talked with. No, I talked with some students at Parsons, SVA. We went to the Fashion Institute, talked with Leslie Cober Gentry, which was fun. Got a little, I got a,
Le-
lit- I got
Leslie,
a,
our guest speaker this weekend.
yeah, Leslie's a guest speaker at the school. I got a legitimate tour of the Fashion Institute, which was nice of Leslie. Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Scott,
I
I feel
want to
like
know what the
I
audience.
just looked up and suddenly there she is. Great job.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I was just about to say, I want to know what the people want us to be talking about. Do you
Oh
got
gosh,
anything, Timmy, from?
Scott, if you find
Yeah, we
out,
just do this for us.
I was just gonna say, Scott, if Scott, if if you know what they want us to talk about, Scott, let me know.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, I just thought they might be telling you.
No, no, they're typically not telling me, but I man, I mean, I don't know. I'm always interested in hearing what got people really excited to doing what they love doing. And like Scott, you love comics, but so much of your work is in editorial.
Hmm.
Mhm.
What has kept you focused on editorial? Like what pulls you into that?
Good question. Well, I mean, it's I yeah, I'm trying to think of what's like the roundabout way, the right way to say this to give the most information. So let me backtrack to answer that question of that. What got me to even know what like the concept of illustration was and editorial illustration was my grandfather on my mom's side, who was this just, he was a player, just this dashing debonair guy that loved the ladies and the ladies loved him. And so the last like really lengthy relationship of his life, he was dating this wonderful French woman, Damienne, who, as a Christmas gift one year, Christmas or a birthday gift, she was clearly like, I've got this sort of, grandson-in-law who I know, or step grandson, however you want to think of it, who really, really likes art. I was in, I think, eighth grade at the time. And so she was just kind of, casting about, right? Like just throwing darts at the dartboard. But she went to some art bookstore, I don't know where it was, that had, John, you might have seen this one back in the day. It was a publication of the Society of Illustrators. It looked just like an annual, but it was very specifically about, it was like the art of humor. So it had a lot of like Chris Payne stuff in it and Ed Sorel. And I mean, really, all the major players at the time, but it was a focused show that they did a nice hardcover annual of, just on humorous illustration. And in the back of it, then it had advertisement for then the regular illustration annual. And in particular, the most recent one then at that point, was the classic one that Gary Kelly did the cover for, where it's like a guy in kind of green blue and he's like holding a palette, like his arms crossed over it. Just a beautiful, stunning image. So I immediately got my parents to buy me that annual because I was like, I got to check this thing out. And so then from there, I've just always been that guy of, just like there's some people who know baseball stats, right? Like they know that every player and can tell you in depth about their season. I became that nerd about editorial illustration, where like I was quickly like self-educating and learning like, okay, so Gary Kelly and Chris Payne, like these are two of these like major players right now. And then there's this guy Mark English, and then there's this guy named M. John English who looks a lot like Mark English, but I think it's a different guy. And so like I was slowly piecing it all together, so that by the time I went to the Illustration Academy, I already kind of like knew the ropes of a lot of the history and a lot of the major players. And that was also part of why when the Academy and I saw the article about it in the magazine, I was like, holy cow, these are, like the major players of the day. I got to go to this program. So all that said, that's what really got me set then on editorial illustration, because that's what my instructors were doing. The people I was learning from, that's what they were doing, were really good at. And I just got excited, honestly, of even kind of regardless of content and of subject matter, of just like, if I can just get paid to make images, that would be the most exciting thing on earth, And so my very first client was Hispanic Business Magazine. I did 2 pieces for them. And then from there, I landed Stocks and Commodities Magazine, which paid horribly. But the art director, Christine, was really kind of a hoot to work with. She was fun. And so slowly just built my portfolio. And so, I don't know, it's kind of like, what's that saying? Like, you dance with the one who brung you, like editorial is just where I kind of got started. And so I've been working my way through the clients I want to work for. Today, I just posted on Facebook and Instagram. I got to do last month a job for Forbes magazine, and they've just been sitting there quietly on the bucket list, of like clients I've been wanting to work for, so really satisfying to be able to say, okay, cool, got a piece in Forbes now,
Congratulations.
That's
Hey,
killer.
thank you.
I
Thanks.
love that you like still have a hit list. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh, I totally do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's great about
Which
that?
just I should chime in real quick because we went real long. Next post, move on to it, people. It's hashtag Wilson Hive, hashtag Drawing Hive, and have Visual Arts Passage. This last post is going to be the short one. Y'all got some beefy first 2 poses. So, John,
Nice
go
and
ahead.
beefy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just going to say that the thing that's so great about editorial illustration, it offers so much variety. There's so many different types of, different venues that accept different creative directions. Is kind of something that's easy to identify starting a career out, and it's something the rest of the industry pays a lot of attention to. You know, people that start editorially can end up be very successful book cover artists, or work in doing, fantasy work, or it's something that's easy to identify at the beginning. So I think a lot of people start that way.
Well, and what I'll also say too, that you kind of touched upon there, John, that something it's been really important for me as my development, my journey as an artist. Illustration has required me to figure out on the spot, sometimes with a really tight deadline, how to draw all kinds of unusual things, and any illustrator will know that feeling of somebody, we say call as part of the vernacular, but, to be honest, these days, it's almost always just email. But, whether it's phone call or an email saying, hey, can you do this? And one of the things I think the Illustration Academy kind of drilled into me is the answer is always, yes, I can. And then you just go and figure it out. So there's no question there have been many things that I have drawn and often really, really enjoyed drawing that I never would have drawn on if left on my own devices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
so
an,
that's helped
it's an incredible
push me.
training ground too. I mean, you do illustration
Yeah.
for now. You're forced time and lots of different directions. You're pushed around a lot. And
Yeah.
I think that's really healthy for somebody developing as an artist.
Yep. And you even develop, as a little side benefit, you develop some level of people skills too, hopefully, because there are going to be times where your art director wants to go in one direction, or maybe even agrees with you in going a different direction, but they're battling an editor who wants something that feels a little bit more safe. And, so you kind of learn skills of subtle persuasion and, just like, how to try and push things when you can around to making the image you really want to make that will be more successful. but also then knowing when it's time to just give in and be professional and deliver for your client, and give them what they really are asking for, so that they're walking away happy from the transaction.
One of the things you both kind of made me think about was this idea of, I mean, when I was a kid, it was like this, especially in the 90s, like the harder you work now, the less hard you'll have to work later, right? And like
Yeah.
life being this balance of doing what you want to do, or what excites you, and then doing what is allegedly best for the future, right? Or like is going to create more opportunities or whatever, pave more of a path for you down the road. I feel like that's a major part of being an artist, right? Like, because I feel like you have to make that decision almost every day. Do you feel that way?
Well, there's I hopefully not every day, because then that could really grind you down and make you think at some
Yeah.
point, well, why am I not just working an office job that maybe pays more regularly,
Yeah,
or
you're right.
pays
I
better, or
used
whatever.
I goofed it up at the last thing I said, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just say, though, that yeah, absolutely, there are going to be days, in particular in illustration, where you are answering to the dictates of a client. There's going to be some jobs that aren't, maybe as exciting or thrilling as others, right? Where there's some where you just kind of go, okay, I did the best I could. I thought this is going to be, a really great piece. And one lesson I'll mention right now for any aspiring illustrators: remember that we're all addicted to the dopamine, of posting your work and getting people to say nice things. But I do think there is something to be said for discretion. And, you don't necessarily post every single piece you make, right? Like, post work that you really think you're proud of, that you're willing to stand by, that you think, will help further your career. But yeah, I mean, I can think of some real stinkers in my career that I'm so grateful now that I had the consciousness of mind at the time to go, I don't know that this one needs to be posted. Like, I'll collect the paycheck. I did the best I could. It's not like I hacked it out, but not every piece goes the way you want. And that's part of just being a working artist, I think. But I'd be interested to hear Cassandra's take on that, because, as a fine artist, unless you're having maybe a gallery pushing you in a direction, I'm assuming maybe there's not quite what I'm talking about in terms of those, exterior demands being made upon you.
No, but I mean, you can have show deadlines, and like when you do a solo show and you're trying to get through all those pieces, there's always going to be one in there that is just not your favorite piece. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I think that there's something about knowing it is a good enough piece for the show. It's worthy of selling and having your name on it, but it's not one that you have to post. And I definitely have some of those where, like, I'll do some pieces for the show. And what's funny is they'll love it at the gallery, and like a collector will pick it up and they'll be really happy with it, but it's just not a piece I'm the happiest with. Like, I feel the struggle, I see the struggle on it. So I don't, necessarily post that piece either. So I agree with you on that. I think you should post what you're proud of and you want people to give you a job by, potentially, because gallery work is job work, and you're having curators and gallery owners looking at your work constantly. So it speaks of your taste and who you are by what you want seen out there. So
And Cassandra, have you ever had this might be a kind of a unique experience, but have you ever had a piece where you weren't wild about it? And you've already mentioned, right now, of a piece that you just kind of grinded your way through, but a collector still loved it and found a home. But have you ever had the experience where you had a piece that you weren't wild about, and everybody around you is like, no, you're wrong, like this one's good, like this is a
yes,
really good one, and
yeah,
then
and I'm
finally,
like,
like later, you finally recognize, like, oh, that was pretty good, because I've totally had that happen before.
oh yeah, I get blinders on of
Yeah.
just there's like, you had this idea of where the piece was going to go, and sometimes it just doesn't go that direction for you. And I've totally had that. And I've had people, there was a recent piece and people were like, no, this is really good. I'm like, this is going to sell, this is great. And I'm like, oh, I'm still so mad at this piece, I'm so mad at this piece. And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
later I was able to see that it was a good piece. I just was so focused on the struggle of it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So the one for me that always stands out, which it's not on my website or anything, so I can't point it towards anybody to see, but when I was doing I did first an MA program, a Master of Arts in Illustration at Syracuse, and then that program basically kind of transitioned over to the University of Hartford and became an MFA program. So, but when I was at Syracuse, there was an initial thesis project that I did where I did theater posters for a local theater company here in town, Ensemble Theater. So I got to do their whole season. That's what I pitched as my, so my thesis actually got published and shown, here in town, which was pretty cool. And I was doing everything as oil paintings at that point. And I did a piece for a famous play by Edward Albee. It's like a famous satire called The Goat. And I did this kind of bucolic setting with a goat in it, where I went up to a farm and took reference, and it was just kind of straightforward. And I had some like autumn leaves flowing past it just for some shape interest or whatnot. And I didn't hate the piece by any means, but I totally thought out of the whole sequence, out of the whole series of work I did, I thought it was the weakest one. I thought that was the one where it's like, well, I'll turn it in and it gets the job done. And I remember when they hung the show and we all came in for the opening, we hadn't been allowed to see it. And it was not only the most prominent of my pieces that was displayed, it was like literally the first thing you saw when you walked in
Oh
the
my
gallery. So
gosh.
yeah, here's this piece that I'm thinking is the weak one. And my thesis instructor, John Thompson, great illustrator, he had made the call of like, this is gonna be the first thing people see when they walk in. And I remember just being mortified of like, how are they this dumb? Like, what, what are they thinking? And I luckily voiced that aloud to him, in a more polite way. And that's where he kind of looked me and took me aside and said, you're not seeing straight. Like this is your best piece. It's the best one. That's why it's there. Like, you just got to trust me because you're blind to it. And now years later, I can totally see that. But yeah, at the time, I just completely blind to it.
Yeah, I remember I had a solo up, and I was talking with the gallery, and we were walking around, and so they were saying how much they adored this piece that I did, and I was like, really? I'm not happy with how this turned out, and they were like, this is my favorite piece, and they proceeded to break down why they liked it so much, and it helped give me new eyes to look at it, because I just yeah, I don't know. I just got burnt out on that piece.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? We're too close to our own work, but yeah, so it is a pretty wild experience when somebody can help us open our own eyes and go, oh, okay, I guess, this one turned out better than I thought.
Yeah, good question about that. Because yeah, that totally happens. John, how about you?
Never happened to me.
Lies.
No, I had a really fun experience. It was the second time I was fortunate to be able to do one of the big benefits of being my father's son was doing three two-man shows together.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the first one we did, it's actually the second one we did was in Telluride, Colorado. Good gallery there called Telluride Gallery of Fine Art. And we sent all our work out there. We went there a couple of days before, and so we got to see them unpack all the work and everything. And the gallery director came over to us and said, you guys sent too much work. You each are going to have to, we each had 23 pieces. We were supposed to have, he thought it would be better if we had 21 or 20. I don't know how many. Well, we had to get rid of 2 pieces each. So I made this suggestion. I said, well, hey, Dad, this is going to be easy. Why don't I pick the 2 that you should get rid of, and you pick the 2 that I should get rid of? And
that's when the fist fight
That
started.
doesn't feel safe.
no,
Yeah.
I chose his, and he looked at me, he goes, you nailed it. Those are the pieces I would have chose. And he goes, those are my least favorite pieces in the show. And then and then he chose mine, and I was like, okay, I agree with the first one. The second one has to stay in. And he's like, it's not, it's the worst piece in the whole show. And that's
Thanks,
how
Dad.
he not even comparing it to his, but he would just say, it's the worst piece in the show. And I go, yeah, it is, but it looks like I did it. And he smiled and he goes, I know exactly what you mean.
No, that's great.
Trying to really struggling, trying to find voice at that time. And you're doing things that, like, it was connected to other pieces I was doing, and it was important that that stayed in.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said, like when there's visible growth into your voice in a piece, and that can be a painful piece sometimes that others can see merit in that you can't. Um, but yeah, it's exciting and so hard.
Oh, yeah. Well, I always love talking to people that learned from and that got to spend time with my father. He had a really interesting way of helping other artists, and he spent a lot of time thinking about what would be helpful for other artists, you know, trying to think a certain way, or learn the, you know, like prioritize the most important things that you could think about making art. And he was masterful at that. He really did a good job with it.
Yeah, yeah, he did. He excuse me, he was amazing at that, and just breaking down complex ideas and then just speaking matter of fact about that. I still think about how he was talking about, it was all a lot about the shapes of pieces and or of things, and he would be mentioning, you could show the horse from above, but it doesn't look like a horse. Like, why not show it in silhouette and profile? Like, you immediately have a horse shape, and then the other details can be simplified. Like, just things like that just blew my mind of just how simple that is to think that way, that allows you to be complex in other ways because you simplified things there. And that was huge for me.
Yeah, that's a great lesson.
And he was great for, you know, and then everything, you know, the flat assignment that we gave, or we still give.
That's good.
And then his approach to drawing the figure, I think, is just so valuable for people that, and it all goes back to one thing. And he'd always say, hey, you know, a picture's a collection of shapes, and you got to learn how to control them on the picture plane. And shape is so much more important than anything else in your composition. And he's right.
Yep.
Funny how that works.
So I've got good news. Instagram seems to be working tonight. So
Yay.
please, which for those of you who don't know, last week we had to pivot the last
Pivot?
minute. So we've got, yeah, exactly. So we got about 5 minutes left in this last image. So get in the right mindset. Get ready to post it. Get ready to share it, even if you don't like it.
We want to see it.
Yeah.
I drew too much before we started. My eyes are just like completely out of focus right now.
Someone asked a question, and this is a big pivot topic wise, but they said, I thought it was an interesting question because I was trying to imagine it, but they said, has art helped you channel anger ever in a positive way? And I was just imagining like really angry, like just like Scott, you just like full of rage, just like slapping paint down. Um,
I
but no,
can actually answer yes and give you a exact example of this.
really? Okay, let's
Oh,
hear
that's
it.
I can.
awesome. I love it.
All right, cool.
So John, if you're willing to show the piece when you were showing my work, if you want to flip back to that real quick, and you know the one of the kid behind the chain link fence with the big blue
I'll
sky behind him.
I'll find it if you can't get to it, John.
Okay.
I can get to
So
it really quickly.
if you
Okay.
want to pull that one up. So I'll just give the quick context for that. So it was for Miami New Times, and they had contacted me, and I had done some work for this art director before for him, and it was one of the only times this has ever happened in my, yeah, right there, the image on the left. One of the only times this ever happened in my career where most of the time, like almost all the time for editorial illustration, they usually have kind of like an idea. And sometimes like the idea of what they want is already actually pretty well baked, and you're basically like, hey, can you just do this and like make it look good? And sometimes it's a good idea, and sometimes a lot of times it isn't, and you try and persuade them to something better. So that's part of the dance of illustration. This is one of the rare cases where they came to me and said, hey, so in near Miami Beach, there's this what's called the Homestead Shelter. And it was, and sorry to get a little bit political for a second, but I'm going to keep it mild. But this was where they were keeping immigrant kids who had been forcibly separated from their parents under the Trump administration.
Right.
And so this was one where they came to me and said, we were going to do a picture of the actual like establishment, but journalists can only get as close as the chain link fence, and it's just like cinder block buildings. Like there's no image there basically. And they're like, we think there's something better here. What do you think we should do? And I was partly so touched at first of just like, whoa, they're coming to me with a blank canvas and just saying, hey man, we need an image, like, and we need it in a week. What do you think we should do? And so I just said, let's zero in on like the heart of the matter of kids being held against their will, and just the sadness and the fear and all that, and just kind of do it symbolically. It's not going to be a literal kid there, but a representative kid. And I sent one thumbnail sketch and they were like, yep, that's it. That's the cover. Do it. And so I went ahead and did it. And that chain link fence is literally painted in Photoshop, link by link. There's no photo tricks there, no filter tricks. Like I painted that thing, and Timmy, it's no exaggeration to say, like, I painted my rage into every link. Like that's
Really?
what kept me going through such a monotonous task. I just kept thinking how pissed I was about this situation. It's what kept me going.
Yeah.
So hand over my heart, true story.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Fantastic example.
No, I mean, but that's I mean, I'm assuming everybody at some point, not everybody, but many artists at a point in the editorial world get an assignment that it's like you got to sit in this thing that's either gross,
It's ugly. Yeah,
it's
right.
ugly, or it's uncomfortable, or it's upsetting, and it's like
Yep.
you got to figure out how to like operate. It's like working at a morgue. Like
Yeah.
you gotta
separate yourself from it. You got-
yeah.
Yeah. There are some illustrators who really specialize in that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to take a mental toll. I think some of the most important editorial illustration work happening right now, for any of you who are not aware, there is an illustration legend named Steve Brodner, and he has a blog that he's turned into basically a Substack. So you can even support him financially if you believe in the work. But he's doing it's a Substack project called The Greater Quiet, and it came out of COVID. He just started drawing people who died of COVID early on in the panic when it was just rampaging through New York City, because he's a New Yorker. And it ended up getting published as a book by Fantagraphics, and then he's just kept it going all this time. And now, to just be fair, it is a very he has his own very particular. It's a left wing outlook, and so I want to make sure anybody checks it out isn't shocked by that. Steve is very unabashedly who he is politically,
Right.
but it's really important work. He's calling out injustices. He's calling out just like awful things in the
Mhm.
world, and doing so graphically, and really he's doing an important act of bearing witness, I would say. So
Right.
there's somebody who also, I would say, is kind of on the daily pouring some well-earned rage into his work. And I hope he's taking care of himself, because I'm sure it's taking a psychic toll at the same time.
Oh, I
Yeah,
can't
no
imagine.
kidding.
Which, on the topic of psychic tolls, start posting your work to Instagram right now. It's hashtag it's hashtag drawing hive. No matter what, I just say on the topic of I like my
Timmy with the segue.
it's how I lean, it's what I lean on for everything. Hashtag Wilson Hive, hashtag drawing hive, and add visual arts passage. Start posting now. We're only going to give you a couple minutes. But yeah, start posting. I'm looking at the work now. It's awesome. It's so fun.
Oh, I know it's gonna be so good.
All the comic fiends came out of the woodwork this week.
As they
You
should.
know, we
Exciting.
were saying a week ago or two that it was a Glenn Powell summer, but I think it was also kind of a Deadpool Wolverine summer. This was definitely
Yeah,
the big.
it was a
I
bromance
agree.
summer.
I agree. I think the box office would agree. But
Yeah.
it's nice to see like a not Marvel like IP like kill it. I would have liked to have seen like an original IP like kill it, which I mean, how long's it been?
Mhm.
I mean, like literally, I can't think of the last like original idea that was like a box office hit.
Oppenheimer.
Barbie.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
No, but Barbie's a brand though.
It
So
is a
Barbie kind of
brand,
I'm not
counts
but it
calling.
in
I'm
was
like
not
the Marvel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Barbie, get out of here, Barbie.
it was a
But
very
Oppenheimer being,
original
an
take,
original
though.
biopic. Yeah.
Yeah,
And one that was
Scott.
critically acclaimed and did
Yeah,
huge,
Scott, I'll give you that. Although I will say, the only thing I will say is Oppenheimer, because I did see like a scale of like just talking about dollars, Oppenheimer was like a blip compared to like the Marvel world, which I mean,
Sure, fair.
what a thing to compete with.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like an impossible thing to compete with, but it was interesting because we were talking about Deadpool. We saw Deadpool on Friday. Me, Alice, and my friend Alice and her people can relax. Her husband is a huge Marvel fan. So this wasn't a conversation in a vacuum. This was there was a devil's advocate there. But I was we were basically talking about there was a study that I recently saw, and it was on it wasn't really a study, it was just like the analytics of dollars generated by sequels, like annually, like entertainment that was a sequel versus not a sequel,
Right.
from like
Right.
1980s until like I think the study ended in like 2019, so it's not current. But it was pretty crazy because like in the 80s, only like 5% or less of like entertainment revenue was related to a sequel or a non-original idea. And now it's closer to like, or not now, but 2019, it was closer to like 85%.
Yeah. I remember reading something once that was like, in Hollywood, they're looking not just for the hit, they're looking for the hit that then can have the even bigger sequel, like that's
Yeah.
just become part of the calculus.
Yeah.
Hey, by the
Which,
way, take my image down. Nobody wants to look at that anymore. Let's look at John drawing or
yeah,
something.
sorry. You're, you're a better producer than I am, Scott.
You guys all like how I just bark at him? Just, hey, do
No,
this.
no. I was like zoning out, and I'm like, whatever. Just everybody's staring at a screen share. Let me walk around the room before we hop over to Instagram. I want to see all this. This is looking awesome, Scott. Damn.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
looks fantastic.
That's great,
Wow.
Scott.
This has been super fun.
Oh, I love it.
We're here every Thursday, Scott.
And you better come back.
I will try.
You're amazing.
Oh, look
I'm
at
so-
that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I still need to get the dog in.
I can't believe you didn't start with the dog. Where's that shape design with that tongue?
Well, so it needs to overlap things. So I was trying to get the little medallion underneath.
Oh, I'm just teasing.
That
No,
tongue
there's
is
a
the
thought
definition of
process
shape
behind
design.
it.
I
Yeah.
just thought it was so funny that everything that you would think was CGI about that dog,
That
was like everything that you thought was CGI was real.
well,
I
yeah.
just love that, like,
Yeah.
I smudged it and it's the dog. Like,
I saw like the behind the scenes, and I was like, surely the tongue is CGI. And you're like, nope, just the goggles.
the dog won the ugliest dog contest. I love this dog so much. I'm so glad it's on the reference tonight.
Yeah.
I randomly saw like on Instagram Reels or something, footage from the grand opening, the red
Mhm.
carpet premiere of and there was Ryan Reynolds holding that dog, and my first thought was, oh my gosh, the dog's real. Like I didn't really know that.
It's probably just to prove how real that dog was.
I mean, legitimately, it's pretty rare they work with a real animal anymore,
Yeah.
But it was
Mhm.
great. I was excited for it. I am gonna head over to Instagram. So I'm loving this, John. I want to just look at. Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, John,
You.
that face. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's a great likeness.
Wow.
It's
What are you
funny.
talking about that being bad reference? I feel offended. That is fantastic reference, and that's what's leading to your success here.
Yeah, I'm doing the best I can with this reference.
It looks
Oh my
good.
gosh.
It's great reference. It's great shape. It's not a great light, but it's great shape. But I like it.
This is a fun one. I needed this. Thank you. I've been like buried under back to school stuff for my kids, so that's all I was doing today. So getting to paint this is fun.
All right, this is looking great, people.
Ooh, yeah.
Loving it. This video is awesome. It's hard to always like go through it on the. I wish I could do it, but I can't. It's not working. But check out the video, people. Awesome stuff. You guys
Ooh,
ready?
fantastic.
Ready to
Okay.
do it?
I had to get my brush in the water.
All right. Killer stuff.
Nice.
Perfectly round.
Well, that's well done.
Yes.
Jeff got a panel.
Well done, Jeff. I saw that he was like in late and he did it.
I love it. That's
So good.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
surprised-
AJ, that's fantastic.
I'm gonna be curious if anybody does
AJ,
Jackman.
it's perfect, man.
Yeah, killer stuff. Love
Wow.
it. Fun
Beautiful.
stuff. Nice,
Very
Julian.
good.
Really
That
nice.
dog. That dog.
Yes.
Killer dog.
Love that dog. I'm totally finishing the dog before I post.
Oh, nice,
Ooh,
Randy.
Nice one, Randy.
Good. Good stuff.
Really nice.
Nice.
Good drawing. Good line work.
Love it.
Good
Yeah,
light you got there.
the problem with Drawing Hive from my perspective is it just keeps getting better.
I know.
Good
Your
thing,
work is
but I
so
tell you what,
good.
it keeps you on your toes, you know? It's like,
Mhm.
where are we
Great job, Leslie.
getting so good?
Love the Gambit was a favorite tonight. Gambit was my favorite as a kid.
Oh
Loved it.
yeah. I was like all for the Gambit movie that never happened.
Yeah. This is great
I thought
stuff.
that was a pretty.
Nicole. Yes.
Nicole?
What do you think, Scott?
I was just going to say, just quick aside, I thought that was one of the really clever things in the movie was for the people who knew that,
Yeah.
what's his face, that Channing Tatum had, been trying to get a Gambit movie off the
Right.
ground for like a decade. And so they finally gave him his glorious spot. But you'll notice like a little meta touch was that the character didn't really have many memories. And he was commenting on that of like, yeah, I kind of don't like remember, because this movie never happened, I mean, it's just little touches that when the movie was over, I had to explain to my 12-year-old son, like, hey, here's what was going down with that one.
Oh, yeah, you're like, that was more of like a
14-year-old son, but
yeah.
yeah,
You're like,
I
that's
had to explain. This is a deep cut, like
yeah, you're like, that was a joke mostly for people who work at Variety.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, people who really follow these movies. And
Oh,
anyway, back to the art. Oh man, that's
wow.
really good. That's
I'm saying,
fantastic.
Gambit.
That's so cool.
Gambit was a favorite for that. Oh, that dog.
Really nice. Julian,
Awesome.
fantastic.
People are killing it tonight.
Love it.
Ladypool,
So
not
great.
Deadpool. I
Not
got
even going
chewed
there.
out.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nicole, my new favorite is this one right here.
That was
Well
awesome.
done. Well
Yeah.
done.
Which, Scott, if you don't know, we have a button and it's Keanu's Whoa, and we give it to one person every night. So as the guest, I think you get to decide who gets the Whoa.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh gosh, sorry, because I'm now I feel bad because I've been like jumping back and forth looking at them and also frantically trying to get further
It's
on this
okay.
piece
It's
before
okay.
we
For the
wrap it up.
record,
So I haven't
record-
seen everything. So
For the record, for Scott, it's here going forward.
okay. Yeah, well, just know
Yeah.
if anybody feels cheated, it's
No one's gonna feel
because,
cheated.
I
It's
maybe
you know
didn't see
what?
your
If they
piece.
feel cheated, it's you can blame me. All right.
I'll do
Wow.
that. That's a good
Ooh.
life thing. Ooh, well, Gary always brings it, so I'm
Yeah.
not surprised at
Okay.
that one at
Are
all.
we giving him the Whoa? Are we giving him the Whoa?
Yeah, I'm gonna give that one the
All right.
whoa right there. That's
All right.
fantastic. That Lady Deadpool is really great.
There we go. All right.
Oh, that's
This
great.
stuff
Good
is
line
amazing.
work.
Love
Ooh,
that
I
dog.
love that.
Love that dog.
Yes,
awesome.
Marcy, I'm so happy that you drew it that way.
Everybody gets dimples. Yeah.
Nice, Chuck.
Killer stuff.
Great job.
Oh,
Oh, that's
wow.
nice.
That's awesome.
Really nice.
That's a
They
good
were in
one.
Kenya, y'all. Did you see that? It was from Kenya.
Incredible. That's wild. Kenya.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Nice design.
Awesome.
Drawing.
Thank you.
Welcome. Love it.
Really nice.
Good stuff.
Ooh, great job. Good tongue there.
I'm gonna
Oh,
stop real
wow,
quick.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's killer, Pete. And Pete, visual arts
Ah.
passage student, And I just want to remind everybody, we're currently in an early bird enrollment. So if you're thinking about making this your career, sign up now. Discount code is CHIRP. It ends next Friday. Don't miss it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, look at
That is
that.
amazing.
There.
That is so much fun.
Amazing.
Thank you for
Can I get
doing
a whoa from me? Can that one be a whoa from me?
I'll give him.
Look at it.
Yeah, two people get. We throw out the woes pretty easy.
So good.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's really fun. Great job.
Nice gambit.
Really nice.
Awesome. Love it.
Good job.
Wow.
Nicole, you
Busy.
were busy, girl.
Yeah, busy.
Great job.
This is great stuff. God, I
Mhm.
love that dog.
Love the dog.
Yeah,
Nice,
great again.
Gary.
Oh my
Right.
God.
My
that's
seat.
Oh, that's
awesome.
really, hey, talk about shape design right there. That's really great, Albert.
Oh yeah, Alberto's
That
so
is
good at
awesome,
that.
isn't
a
it?
great one.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Really good.
Whoa.
Ooh, Melissa.
Yeah, man.
Damn.
Love.
I'm
Look,
gonna go
she
ahead and
even
say Melissa
rendered
didn't
the
do that in 20
card.
minutes.
Did you see the
That's too
card?
good.
She got
You
the
saying-
patterning of the card. Look at that.
Scott, are you calling somebody out? You're like,
Yeah,
"That-
I'm totally calling
that
her
ain't-
out of that. That wasn't 20 minutes, but like I can talk as I'm still picking away. I'm just teasing. But
So
beautiful
good.
piece.
that ain't 20."
Good
Hey,
job.
correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. If it is, you've put us
Yeah.
all to shame.
You know
That's
what? Look at this.
fantastic.
This piece is so simply done, and yet you know exactly what it is.
Yep.
Great job.
Awesome stuff. Nice.
Good job. Great drawing.
Great stuff.
Love
Mhm.
it.
Oh, fun.
Good job.
Hugh Jackman, man.
So great. That was really good.
Wow. Good stuff.
Really good.
Fun. Loved
Oh, Charlotta, I love that you put
That's
the
awesome.
dog in like the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Right in the spine.
Fun.
Really nice, Terry. Ooh, that one's
Killer.
awesome.
Mm.
Killed it.
Great job.
Killed it. That dog.
So
Never gonna get over it.
Sander.
Wow. Oh man, I love that. That is great.
Really nice.
Fun stuff. Wow. Oh wow, that's killer, Pete.
Super
Peter,
impressive.
man, you got a lot done.
Good stuff.
Really nice.
Oh, fun. Love it when they put it together.
Good job. Ooh, that's
Everybody.
nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Love
Nice.
it.
Sweet, Felicity.
Wow. Good job, Felicity.
You got that Tatum hair.
Yeah, good swoop.
Yeah.
Really
Good
nice.
stuff. Hell yeah. That's
Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
That's
Love
great.
it, AJ. That's so good.
That's great.
That's so good.
Great job.
Good stuff.
Nice.
Really nice, Terry. Yeah.
Oh, I
That's
love it
good,
when you
Xander.
add the Visual Arts Passage logo to anything.
I know. He's
Awesome.
fantastic about that.
Good stuff.
I can't believe how many people are posting like multiple amazing finished pieces. You
I
guys
know,
are
right?
absolutely
It's humbling.
humbling
Yeah,
me here.
It's
Yeah,
so
but Scott,
humbling.
isn't the best thing when it's like 10-minute study.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that they're all going to admit to me like, oh, I got the
Yeah.
reference 3 hours ago and cranked on it or something. But
Scott, I post this reference on Monday.
oh, you did? Okay. All right. Well,
But you'll notice all
maybe.
of this artwork is posted like
Yeah, but
10 minutes ago,
Gary
12
gets
minutes
all
ago.
of this
Mm.
done in
Yeah.
Drawing Hive.
95% of people are doing it during the show. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
that's
is great.
Nice, John. Really good.
Awesome, Eric.
Oh,
That's
that's
great. Love it.
fantastic.
A lot of our students in here.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's
Ooh,
awesome. I love that.
lovely.
wow.
Love it.
Yeah, really good.
Dang.
Damn. Oh,
Xander,
it's jumping around.
Sandra, how much did you
All
do?
right.
Did you like how much of that is done now? 'Cause
Yeah, I
that's
know,
really
right?
good. Really nice. Oh, that's
Killer.
cool.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
That's so cool.
That's really great.
All right.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I love it that we're ending on some, we don't know who, but it's an offspring of the Schweitzer family. That's awesome.
Perfect.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to post your work, you could still post it today or tomorrow. We'll share everything on Friday. Scott, what a pleasure. You're an honorable guest. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, you
Thank
guys
you,
are the
Scott.
best. It
Thank you,
was
Scott. Keep
my
coming.
Hanging
great
with you,
pleasure.
man.
Likewise. And this was such a fun theme, Timmy. I'm glad you were up for doing this. This is a
Oh my
blast.
God. Anytime you got a theme, Scott, if it's going to get you on the show, let me know. All right.
Well, we've already got mine planned for my big feature one. We already know what we're going to do. So just you wait, people. So,
All right. Okay,
Cassandra,
everybody.
we've already
That was
agreed on it.
fun.
So
Yep, it's done.
Cassandra, thanks for doing this.
Love
Scott,
it. Love you
Rosalind,
guys.
thank you. Timmy, have a
pleasure.
All
good
right,
night.
everybody. Have a nice night.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Night.